Hi, everybody. Congratulations on making it to the final week of the course. I don't know about you, but it really flew by for me, especially with everything else that's been happening in our world this summer. So today I'm just going to quickly introduce the content for our final week of class, and then I'll spend the majority of this this instructional video introducing you to the final assignments for this week. As you hopefully remember from our syllabus, the assignment structure for this final week is going to be different. You have a final exam to complete and also a concluding discussion post, which is going to look very different than your typical EOP and comments that you've been completing for your weekly discussion posts up to this point. But before we talk about the assignments, let me just quickly introduce to you the content for week 5. So we have 3 final modules to cover this week, since it is the last week of the course, and technically the last day of this course is this Friday, August 7th. I tried to keep the content somewhat light so you're not overwhelmed with your preparation for the final exam and etc. So the first topic we're going to talk about is the social problems pertaining to immigration, specifically in the United States. So just a few short readings here for you to read, and then one brief video that is a news piece that did kind of an in-depth investigation of the inhumane conditions in detention facilities in the U.S. Near the U.S.-Mexico border. So obviously, Texas being a border state, this is a very important issue for us here. Also in Corpus Christi, we have a very large Latinx population, so immigration is definitely a social problem that I expect many of you are somewhat familiar with, and hopefully exploring these resources this week is going to provide you a sociological lens to better understand immigration through a sociological perspective, right? The next module for this week is on social problems pertaining to healthcare. This is actually an area that I specialize in as a sociologist. I'm actually hoping to be teaching a course on the sociology of medicine and the sociology of healthcare. Probably not this year, but the following year. So if you're still around at TAM-UCC, then definitely keep your eyes open. So content for this week, this is just, I believe, a reading from the textbook. There's a short article that discusses some gender inequalities in healthcare, how women receive inferior treatment. And then, especially considering our current situation, living in a pandemic, I decided to dedicate a few different pieces of content this week to better unpacking how sociology can help us understand COVID-19 and the social implications of living in a pandemic right now. So this is just a short reading about how COVID-19 is particularly deleterious or particularly harmful for minorities, particularly people of color, people of lower socioeconomic status. And then the next piece is a blog post that I wrote a few months ago that hopefully will provide kind of a more casual introduction as to why it was a social problem when states were reopening soon, specifically Texas, one of the first states in the U.S. to reopen. And obviously, we're definitely feeling the repercussions of that now. Texas has been reporting record high cases. Corpus Christi itself has made national news headlines for being, having one of the highest per capita rates of new cases of COVID-19. So I kind of unpacked some of that in this particular blog post. I was actually just recently interviewed by KIII TV News here in Corpus Christi last week for a sociological perspective on the kind of implications that COVID-19, this pandemic, is going to have on human behavior and interactions. So I included that. And then a few other pieces here. These are pieces that kind of focus more on this idea of universal healthcare in the United States, the advantages of having a healthcare system that you don't need private insurance for in order to get healthcare in the US. And then, of course, the lecture videos and slides for that content. And then the last module we'll be covering this course has to do with drugs. So the this first piece here just talks a little bit about some statistics related to social problems in realms of alcohol and drug abuse. Next, I included a brief video clip here. Well, not brief necessarily. I think it's about 40 minutes or so, but it's a mini documentary about the opioid crisis in the United States, which is one of the most relevant and current drug problems that's occurring in the US. And then a few pieces here talking about the legalization of marijuana or of cannabis in the US. That sociology provides a really interesting lens to understand the pros and cons of legalizing marijuana. And then another piece that briefly discusses the war on drugs, which many of you probably are too young to you weren't born when the war on drugs officially took place in the Reagan era, but this provides a really interesting sociological perspective on why declaring a war on drugs is problematic from a sociological perspective, and then again, the lecture videos and slides for this week. All right, so I want to remind you again, you do not have a typical weekly discussion post this week, okay? Meaning you don't have to write an EOP and you don't have to write comments on other students' EOPs this week. But it is still important that you view and study this content because all of the content from week 5 will be covered on your final exam, all right? So again, you do not have a typical weekly discussion post with your EOP and comments, but this content from week 5 will be included on the final exam. So it is important that you view it. It is important that you study it in preparation for the final exam. So instead of your typical weekly discussion post, what I'm asking you to complete this week is a concluding discussion post. So this is a little more casual. It's essentially just an opportunity for you all to reflect on this course and to do some kind of critical thinking about what it is that you learned from this course and how you're going to be able to apply what you've learned in this course to your everyday lives. All right, so I created the discussion form here. This will become available Sunday morning at midnight, so you'll have all day Sunday starting then until Friday to get this completed. The deadline for this assignment is Friday, August 7th at 11:59 p.m. So again, keep that date in mind, Friday, August 7th, 11:59 p.m. I asked you 4 different questions here. I want you to respond to each of them. Your total word count for this post should be at least 500 words. So I'm not saying you need 500 words for each question, just in total, a minimum of 500 words to address these 4 questions. Since this is not a typical weekly discussion post, you do not need to cover the 5 C's in this post, nor do you need to comment on other students' posts. Although you can comment on other students' posts if you'd like. Maybe you read something that someone else said and it inspired you in some way and you want to give them a shout out or whatever. That's totally fine, but it's not required this week. All right, so again, you do not have your typical weekly discussion post this week. Instead, you will be completing this concluding discussion post in which you need to answer these 4 questions in a minimum of 500 words, and you do not need to follow the 5 C's for this format. These questions are pretty, open-ended and reflexive, meaning that you can answer them however you want. There's not necessarily right or wrong answers, but I am looking to see that you really did take some time to critically reflect. And this assignment is worth 100 points, so there's a lot up to stake here. So don't just slough this off and do the bare minimum. I really want to see you grappling with what we've covered in this course and really taking a deep dive into thinking, how did taking this course impact me? What am I taking away from this? And maybe you're not taking much away. And if that's the case, try and explain why. Why do you think you had a hard time engaging in this course for whatever reason that may be? All right. So the other big assignment that you have this week is your final exam. So last week I provided you with this final exam study guide. It was in the week 4 content folder. I went ahead and just moved it into the course content folder right at the top, so it's very clear and accessible for everyone. If you haven't already, I would strongly recommend going through all of the terms, theories, and concepts provided on this study guide, making sure you're familiar with them, because that is going to help you significantly on this final exam. So the final exam, you won't be able to see this yet because it does not become available until Wednesday at midnight. So by 12:01 a.m. on Wednesday, you should be able to see this final exam link here. I'm just going to click into it to give you a look at what it's going to look like. You'll click into it here. It will tell you that this is a timed test. You have 2 hours to complete it. So again, while you can refer back to your notes, the PowerPoint slides, the course content, etc., you are timed on this exam. So you're not going to have time to look up answers to every question, which is why it is very important that you go through the study guide, that you review your notes, that you review the course content, and that you put in sufficient amount of time studying before you take this exam, okay? Once the 2 hours runs out, you will be logged off from your exam. Any answers that you have not submitted will be graded as incorrect. So it is important, like I said, you have to do some preparation for this exam. Don't come into it thinking that you're going to be able to look up every single answer, okay? So you get 2 hours to complete the exam from the time you click this begin button here. There's about 100 questions on the exam. There are no essay questions on the exam, so it's all multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, etc. So if you have any specific questions about the exam, feel free to shoot me emails. I will respond to those as quickly as I can this week. Again, you have one attempt after you submit the exam. You will be able to see the grade that you got in the gradebook center on Blackboard. You will not be able to see the questions you got answered incorrectly, however, until the exam closes. And the exam closes on Friday, August 7th at 11:59 p.m. So as of midnight on Saturday, you will be able to come back and look at your exam and see what questions you got wrong, if that's something that you want to do. And sometimes Blackboard can be a little wonky with students coming back and reviewing exams. So if you have any problems entering or looking back at your exam after Saturday, August 8th, please let me know and I'll help you figure that out. So this exam becomes available on midnight on Wednesday, August 5th, and it closes on 11:59 p.m. on Friday, August 7th. So that means you have a 2-day window here to take this exam, but you only get one attempt. So once you start this exam, you need to complete it within 2 hours. So if you want to wait until Friday evening to take the exam so you have more time to study, that's totally up to you. But again, remember, you get 2 hours once you click start, and you have to have it completed by 11:59 p.m. on Friday, August 7th, okay? Our course is over at that point. So this is really, really important. This exam is also worth 100 points. So there's a lot of points on the table to earn for this last week of this course. Really important that you stay on task with that. All right. So that is that in terms of the course. I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for completing this course. I'm really proud of the work that you've completed, especially over this past week or two. Your discussion posts have gotten so incredibly detailed and sociologically informed. I feel like I'm reading discussion posts written by graduate students in sociology, which is a really big compliment. So please don't take that lightly. You also covered an immense amount of material in 5 weeks. We covered 15 different modules, right? So 15 different social problems in a 5-week period. That's a lot of content to cover. And based off of the high quality of your discussion posts, I think the majority of you have really mastered understanding social problems at this introductory level, which is really great. So if you were interested in this course, if you think after taking the social problems course that it piqued your interest, I want to encourage you to consider taking more sociology courses in the future here at TAMU-CC. Almost every single module, every single topic, social problem that we covered in this course, we teach an entire course about here at TAMU-CC. So for example, if you were really interested in learning more about race and racism, this fall we have a course on the sociology of race and ethnicity. We have courses specifically on the sociology of gender, on the sociology of education, the sociology of family. Next year, I plan to be teaching courses on sociology of sexuality and the sociology of medicine. So if there's any specific topic that you are really interested in, I'd encourage you to take a look at the course offerings that we have or reach out to me. I'm more than happy to stay in connection with all of you and to help you figure out if pursuing more coursework in sociology is a good idea for you. Along those lines, if you are really interested in this course or want to learn more about sociology, I would strongly encourage you to consider declaring a minor or even a major in sociology. A lot of people don't realize that you can oftentimes double major. So if you already declared a major in something, you could add a major in sociology, and sometimes it won't even add any extra time onto your degree plan or extend your graduation date. You just have to be smart about the courses you pick and swap out some electives for some additional sociology courses. And I think declaring a major in sociology is a great idea because a sociology degree prepares you for careers in almost any field. Our majors work in law enforcement, they work for nonprofits, they become educators, they become researchers, they become counselors, they work in public relations and human resources and healthcare administration. You know, the options are endless for sociology students, and that's because we prepare you with a skill set that employers find really attractive. So I'd love to talk to more of you, all of you about pursuing sociology further. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And lastly, please be safe. This pandemic is going to be here for a while, but we're all in this together. So, take care of yourself so we can take care of each other. Be kind to one another. I really hope you enjoyed this course, and I look forward to being in touch with you.